And okay. All right. So I should be good now. Everybody can hear me? All right. So apologize for the slight delay. I think that should finally take care of it. Um, and again, thank you for bearing with me. I'm like that professor who is trying to work the VCR from high school and just kind of fumbles around with it for 10 minutes. But I think I finally got it. I think we are good to go now, and should be should be fine. Okay. So what I would like to do, I'm going to kind of go back through some of these, some of my process and kind of what I look for and what I do. So whenever I go into a after the market closes, I start my preparation for the next day, and there are a couple things that I'm looking for when when I actually do that. So I look at futures, and so for me, futures are the general futures of ES1 and NQ1. Like those are useful. They give you kind of an impression of market sentiment. There's a lot of back and forth that happens with those. The activity that happens right when futures open isn't necessarily indicative of what might happen the next day. Kind of for me, more impactful futures it would be like oil, CL1. I look at Hang Seng to see what's going on in China as well. I look at uranium. I look at natural gas, and like natural gas today is way down. So here's a stock I mentioned, well, an ETF actually, that I've mentioned a lot that is probably going to have another run here. Here it goes. So up 11% in pre-market, and I've actually in our Discord Discord room, I've mentioned cold before, and my office light just went out on me. So that's one of those motion activated deals. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm in my campus office. Got this energy saving light that goes off. Anyway, but I've been talking about cold for a while, and it's an inverse ETF for natural gas, which means that it goes up when natural gas goes down. And natural gas had been on this really incredible run for a long time, which conversely has meant that cold was just completely destroyed over the past several months. And I talked about how it was really kind of reaching a point where any kind of weakness in natural gas was just going to absolutely send cold through the roof, and that's what's happened over the last couple days. So when I look at futures, that's the kind of futures that are useful to me, or the ones that are really specific to a sector, and the others are very important, but they're not as specifically actionable unless you're looking at QQQ and SPY in particular. So that's one element of what I do. I kind of monitor futures as I go, and then every day I do write some notes, and I want to talk a little bit about where those notes come from and how I actually go about all that. So I have a little page here in our Discord room, and every day I go through every sector, and I just sort of write what I think. You can see I was a little bit of a night owl last night. I'm here at like 11:30 and finished up at 1:30 a.m. Usually I do them a little earlier than that, but college professor, end of the semester has been kind of crazy for me. But anyway, so I go through, and I just monitor kind of what I see, and so I want to go through a couple of these, and so let's look at communication services. I said If we get a bounce tomorrow, dead cat or not, there is bullish flow on Facebook and Snap. And dead cat bounce, you may have heard that term before. It means that when there's a huge sell event in the stock market, in a particular stock, or the market as a whole, that if it just goes down too steeply, too quickly, you will get some relief for that, and stocks will go up. They might go down 8% and then up 2%, but anyway, you can kind of catch that move. One of the reasons why you tend not to want to chase puts on a stock that's really run down on the day. But anyway, that is something. But okay, so why did I say that I thought Facebook might bounce today? Okay, so go into here. Let me get into my filters. Go into and here's by the way, just kind of a general setting for my filters here. I will divide this up. The premium range for a bigger stock like Facebook, I'll sometimes jump up to 50K, and date to expiration 1 to 120. I might sometimes lower that to like 60, just to get a little bit more of a focused on the immediate future. So okay, so then this is the flow that comes up, and you can see on a day that the stock sold off a lot, we do have quite a bit of bullish activity here on this live flow feed page. And you go to the charts, and you can see the bullish versus bearish premium and bullish versus bearish volume. There's the heat map here. I'll go through those tools maybe later, but anyway, this is one piece of it. Is I kind of look up individual stocks, some of the big, what I see is the big movers in any given sector, and I'll see what I'm interested in there. But more than that, there's a particular tool here, the options dashboard, which you can go to on the menu, and this is on Unusual Whales. I should of course mention that. They're a site that has been really valuable to me, and their whole crew has been very good to me as well. So I'm always happy to talk about them. But okay, so I go to communication services, and you can divide things up by market cap. And so there are a couple of particular option chains that pop up here under most bullish chains that get my attention. So two weeklies, 200 and 220. Well, where is Facebook? Where is Facebook now? So Facebook so the 200 is at this point likely to almost open in the money. And we can see kind of what this has done in the pre-market. Like a lot of stocks today, it had this little bit of a relief rally going. We'll see how far that pushes. I mean, futures are up quite a bit, so it might at least last through the morning. We're certainly in a bear market, and that is probably going to continue. But bear markets characteristically do have big little sporadic bull rallies in them. And after the last 3 days of selling, or last 3 days of selling, you might imagine that could happen. So anyway, so this is where Facebook is kind of positioned right now, and those were the contracts that caught my attention, and you can see here that 4.1 million in bullish premium, 2.7 million in bearish premium. What does that mean? Well, when someone sells a call, it's bearish. I mean, you sell a call and you want the stock to go down or stay flat. When you buy a call, you're betting that it's gonna go up. So we have almost double. Well, that's not, I guess not almost. I'm not a math professor, but we have significantly more bullish volume than bearish, both on this one, and then this one to 220 to kind of a lesser extent. This one's way out of the money, so not entirely surprising. But okay, so that's an indication that that's potentially leaning bullish a bit. Just to tell you kind of what this means, the red and green. This is a put on AMC, but it's a bullish put at $16 for June 17th, and you can see here that the flow on it's kind of overwhelming. And if we look at what AMC is doing, I mean, of course, they had earnings, and pretty nice beats. A couple big spikes here. This is something that I would notice in the pre-market that kind of gives me an indication of what we might expect and how I might actually trade a stock like this. I don't trade AMC a lot. I do own some, but anyway, you got your pre-market low and your pre-market high, and it's been within this range. So if I were to try to trade that, I might look for it to, if it drops, to defend this pre-market low. That's a spot where it might bounce. If it just takes off, maybe it's going to break through this pre-market high and hold and show some sign that it's going to hold that level. And so that from a technical side, and I keep my TA very simple, but from a technical side, that's how I might approach trading it. And if I have, some kind of indication that the option flow on it is favorable, I might look at that too. At 50K, it's certainly not. But we kind of go down to 10,000, and especially late in the day, we did have some put to call ratio is fine. 0.7 is considered bullish on that, so that might be something there. We flip on the bid side, that's where you'll see the sold puts on it. And if we just take a look at the charts, yeah, so it is leaning bullish, and you can see here in terms of ask side and bid side, it actually is the bid side that is kind of dominating things, which is part of the deal with the sold puts that you see on it. So there's a lot of puts, but a lot of them are sold puts. So basically, with them having earnings, it's like trying to just trap people who were wanting to play a lotto on the earnings, and those puts are going to pretty much be worthless for the person who bought it, and then profitable for the person who sold it. So good for them. But okay, anyway, that is one thing I look at there, and for me, like my whole approach does really revolve around these sectors, and having a kind of compartmentalized take on things, and some of them trade kind of similarly to each other, like consumer cyclical and technology. You're not going to see a lot of divergence in where a bunch of consumer cyclical is green and a bunch of tech is red, but you do sometimes see that with something like consumer defensive, where these are kind of like more like safety stocks that people might want to put their money in when the market's facing some uncertainty. So the things like Clorox or Heinz or MO is Altria. So let's take a look at Heinz actually and see what's going on with them. So you can see yesterday, I mean, if you were looking for stocks that actually went up, consumer defensive is really one of the few that would do that, and I have my list kind of divided up by that. So so you did have stocks like Kroger did okay. Walmart did very well, and a few did not. A few sold off pretty hard. Beyond Meat's considered a consumer defensive. but it doesn't really exactly trade like one. It obviously they're more of like a growth stock. They're kind of speculative. It's very volatile. Every time a fast food restaurant picks them up, or even if there's a rumor that one might do that, they'll go crazy and spike on that news. So anyway, yeah. So that's Beyond Meat certainly is one that I'm watching today because because they have earnings after hours. So kind of looking for what they might do based on that. But in my notes on consumer defensive, I say that you can probably trade the upside on BlackRock Coffee again very soon. Look for 10 to hold. And in terms of why I said that, one reason. Get it smaller caps here. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the here that I saw it. Okay, so I'll go into the flow. See what I saw. I think my site is acting up on me. There definitely was more than one there. Oh, I know what it was. Okay, here we go. Intraday Analyst. This is another feature that I definitely recommend using. So it's on your menu here, and they're changing this a lot, and it's been very very useful lately. So I still am kind of familiarizing myself with some elements of this, but a couple things that are really useful here. You can see where the volume tends to kind of spike on the stock in terms of the option buying, and it really, like down here, once it got to 10, I said look for it to defend $10, and you can see a big spike in volume there, and then it does kind of peter out a little as you go up. But if we were to get back up to this level here, $11, etc., we can see that it might kind of defend this area, and this is where it could really go up. So what I kind of anticipate, just based on looking at options, is that it's going to kind of stay in this range. It's probably not going to fall below 10, and it is going to try to maybe get to this level, and then at that point it could break through. It might need a few more buyers, but we're just talking about a couple cents here. Okay, so where is it? So what's it doing? And I wrote those notes last night. Let's just see if it's doing anything. Am I right or wrong? Well, it's up 3%. Is that gonna hold and push it anywhere? I don't know, maybe, but it is a stock that looks like it kind of found a floor at that $10, and started to go up from there. If today does end up being a really favorable day, then that's something that could in fact really kind of pan out. Okay, so with that being said, that's what I sort of saw in that sector, and let's go into some other things. One of my favorites is energy. I play oil all the time. I play uranium quite a bit, and I said that big sell off in oil today. There are some scenarios for a bounce here, but a lot of call volume is bearish. I'd be cautious and make no assumptions. Play levels, on stocks like Oxy, MRO, ZOM, and then I wrote a near-term reversal in uranium stocks does seem likely. So where do I get that interpretation? Well, options dashboard is definitely one place to start. And of course, like I don't want to ignore. Obviously, these days you're not going to ignore the bearish side of things. And you can see you'll sometimes see the same stocks popping up on on both of those pages. So it is always something to be mindful of as you go through this. So get into what I'm looking for here. Okay, so why did I say I thought maybe uranium might actually reverse and do something today? Well, really, for me, it started with these two right here. Because this is on the bullish side, these are sold puts, and this this menu is always a good starting point for me because it's a situation where it's not quite as noisy as this page. The live flow is it's fun to watch. Like I mean, if you're into this sort of thing, and it's as you watch all these buyers come up and everything. If you have it where you don't even filter for a particular stock, I mean, it's always interesting to go up to kind of a higher order level here. To just watch what's coming through and what everyone's wanting to buy, especially right around the bell. We did see a big push on some bearish activity, and a lot of these contracts they bought are going to open red or down. But anyway, yeah. So you could just kind of get a sense of what the whole market's doing with option flow, and this you got this screen up, and I always do have it up in a tab. But when it comes to actually breaking things down and trying to be focused in my preparation for the next day, I do kind of like to start here. And the flow on these particular sold puts is just overwhelmingly bullish at 20 and 23. And what where CCJ is yeah, right here. So 20 and 23. 20 kind of seems like it's a line in the sand that maybe this will actually defend that. And that was the chart yesterday. Going to the higher time frames, the daily charts. And this again is another stock that's just sold off dramatically. But what does it do kind of at that 20 level? Well, we see that it does seem to have some consolidation there. It actually maybe a more significant level is actually right about where we're sitting now. If you look back at just June, for example, and then you can't really go back further because it had been pushing those all-time highs for a bit. But okay, so steep sell-off. It's going to take a little bit to really kind of reverse this fully. So when I talk about it bouncing, I'm not really exactly talking about entering as like a swing trade or something like that. But I might look to enter a day trade on it. And these sold puts and then some of the calls, and with its kind of limited appearances here, I mean, it does have some sold calls too that are leaning bearish, but not quite as overwhelming as this. And there are no ask side puts on this page, so that's kind of a pretty good sign for me as well. Whereas in the bullish side, you get both. You get the calls and then the sold puts. So a decent setup there that I might actually look to enter. And these option strikes do kind of give me a sense of where a floor might be. I mean, especially with really aggressive activity near term expiration, that's a pretty good sign. If I went into the analyst page on it, and I go into CCJ just to see see where we're at here. One thing you can tell here is that this is flipped, and this is COPE. What is COPE? COPE stands for Cumulative Option Premium Effect. It's a measurement of a given stock's bid side versus ask side premium flow over a specific time interval. COPE gives traders the ability to see and map options trend. That should be an option trends or an option. Sorry, I'm going English professor on you guys. But all right, so to map option trends with the movement of the stock, traders can then analyze divergences and see whether or not they tell a story. Now, I do like the way they put this. They tell a story. Like I mentioned, I'm an English professor. I'm all about that, and it's a big part of how I approach option flow. What story are these purchases telling us about where a stock is and where it might go? And this page here, the intraday option volume, is one of those things that does tell a story. And we can see here that we went from this period of very high volume and during the day, and then it kind of petered out. I mean, especially as it started to decline. They maybe were trying to reverse it here. Didn't really work out. But the flow on it here is pretty bullish. We look at the most active chains, and the chains with the highest open interest. So this means that these are the chains that are actually owned by people. And then the most active chains are the ones that seeing the volume for that particular day. So some really active chains here. 30C, way out of the money, and we have 2,835 against 21,000 open interest. So if you do ever see this number higher than this number, it does often indicate a really a lot of demand for it. So we don't necessarily see that here, but we do see some bullish chains. And then we get down here, and it's the biggest option trades from yesterday are overwhelmingly bullish. And you have also floor traders. What is a floor trader? It's a trade executed by a floor trader, an exchange member who executes transactions from the floor of the exchange exclusively for their own account. So we don't know who this is. He's one of those guys you watch CNBC and you just see him on the stock exchange floor with waving his hand in the air or whatever. But why does it matter that it's a floor trader? This is kind of anecdotal, and I don't know that I don't have like statistics on this, and I don't know if anyone's even tried to do that. But there is kind of a level of precision, particularly with entries that I see with floor traders that you might not see with just these big institutional buyers who just kind of load up on things in these big blocks. So they kind of will sort of snipe particular contracts and entries. So it does kind of catch my attention when I see that. And we do have here some chains where the volume did exceed the open interest, and both of these sold puts. And guess what? These two here are the same ones that I saw on the options dashboard. So the thing about this site is that the data is all connected, and you can find it in all these different places, and I can actually find these on this page as well, I'll bet. Not that I really need to because it's right here, but so at 11:30 and then 8:40, someone sold some puts on these, and CCJ. Oh, get this down a bit. Yeah, so here's this floor trader. Oh no, actually, so they're buying calls. So I don't quite see. Oh, it would help to put the bid side up. There we go. And selling put. The ones I'm looking for. 20. So 11:31. And there. Okay. So there it is. So like I said, I mean, you can find these different contracts at any particular point. If you do, and by the way, you can jump really quickly to the Intraday Analyst page by just clicking on the name. So this is an element of their site that has really improved a lot as they've kind of gone along. Okay, so anyway, let me go back into here and talk about some other elements of what I look for. So I'll write these notes, and then I'll sometimes just kind of go through and see how it's looking in the pre-market and kind of where I'm at. So like mRNA, what are they up to? So up a little bit, kind of with everything. If I was and this one has some kind of a recent push. Who knows what's going to happen when the market actually opens? You can try to scalp a quick move on something, or well, that looks good. So we're up 264 on QQQ. So that's certainly positive. I mean, we'll see if that holds throughout the day. All right. So what I also want to go over really quickly, and then I'll wrap things up and let you get ready for your day of trading, is on my list here. I do have a watch list. I'll usually tweet these out. So like coin, so I put absolutely crushed today. Crypto bouncing and earnings after hours tomorrow. Great day trade opportunity here. My flow read on it was still very bearish, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot. I've talked about how when something just really sells off heavy, it can kind of do that. And you can see here, this is up 454. So last night, midnight, I said I thought crypto stocks would bounce today. So if like you're an options trader, okay, good for you, but that I can't even buy anything right now. But if you do trade shares on them, there were some definitely some opportunities on some of these, and like Bitfarms had this pre-market spike, and then it dipped down, has gone back up. One of my favorite ones to trade that works for shares and options is HUT. And then of course you have Riot way up, and a Riot and Mara, and they did give you potential entries in the pre-market. So you get up early enough and you have the right broker, you can actually act upon some of these notes. Or if I'm wrong, you can tell me I was wrong, and that's fine. That happens too. But anyway, yeah. So my watch list, where does it come from? It kind of comes from the same place as what I've been talking about. is start with the options dashboard. I look at particular sectors. I saw some things that I thought were interesting in BABA, and kind of some late day activity that was bullish that caught my attention. And so where does it kind of sit for us now? And I'll go here. So up 384, and I treat Chinese ADRs as their own sector, even though these all fall in different sectors. But we look at like DD is way up, and PDD, XPEV, and NEO are excellent for options. So it looks like initially, as the market's going to open, we are getting some potential relief here. So that's good. That's a good sign, and we'll kind of look and see if that will actually hold up on a day where things really spike like this. I tend to kind of be careful about entering. I don't want to chase. So if I were to try to scalp QQQ, I might look for it to kind of give a little back. I might want the RSI to drop a bit, and you can see it's just through the roof right now. So that is not sustainable. Now that doesn't mean that we're going to go back and test 300, but it means that you'll have some people taking profits. It'll sell off a bit, consolidate a bit, cool down, and then go from there. And like when you go into the chart, you can see how it does that. Pre-market RSI is a little wonky because of the different volume, but in general, you don't really necessarily want to buy calls when the RSI is way up here. You want to buy it when it's down here. But there's other factors. You don't want to buy something even if the RSI is low that is just clearly failing. This was QQQ yesterday, and it just really, buyers just didn't have any juice. You could tell early on, these big wicks here, and then it just collapsed and sold off, and kind of went from there. But anyway, so kind of the opposite situation today. We're opening way up, so I'm going to be just watching and seeing what happens there. I did have some triggers on these stocks, and lately the triggers you set up are useful, but not in the way that conventionally happens. So usually when you set triggers on something, and you kind of go through it. So coin 86.21 and 83. So 80, you can see here 86.21. 20 is fine, and then 83, close enough. Not as maybe precise as I should be. You could type it in, but anyway, I'm just demonstrating. So normally you set triggers, and you're going to open in this range, and the whole point of the trigger is that you want to avoid fake outs by seeing a stock with some authority break through that trigger and maybe retest it and hold it, and then go from there. So you play calls up here, you play puts down there. You could do smaller scalps within the range, and sometimes it does just bounce between these two numbers if your numbers are kind of close enough. But so now we broke through this. So what do I look for? If it just takes off, it's gone, and I didn't trade it. Oh well. I'd rather do that than avoid testing it. Ideally, if I'm actually going to enter a trade on this, it'll kind of come back to this level, and I'll see, is it actually going to hold that. So tomorrow when I do this live stream, I'll go through my notes again, but I also want to talk about the formula I use for these triggers and where it comes from, and we'll kind of go from there. So anyway, so this is my live stream, my successful live stream for once. So that's good, and I will again be doing this pretty much every day, and I will put reminders out on Twitter. I really want to thank you all for attending. These are recorded. If you want to watch them later. Just gives you some insight into what I'm seeing and how I use these tools as a sort of live demonstration. So everybody, have a great day. I hope you're very profitable, and just stick to your plan. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you.